What's up, guys? This is 2 Bucks, and I have a rather brief life story for you guys this time. This one occurred in the summer after my freshman year of high school. In freshman year, I played basketball on the school's freshman basketball team. Now, you might be like, wow, 2 Bucks is actually good at sports. Well, nobody got cut from the team, so I guess it's not saying much. But in any case, I was a fairly decent basketball player, and my mom signed me up for a summer basketball camp at a local college that lasted, I think, about 2 weeks. And when I got there, obviously there's the usual split of kids. There were the super legit MLG pro drop shot basketball kids, and then the other like shitty noob tubing camping basketball players. That analogy didn't make much sense, but I think you understand what I mean. And I wasn't sure how I fit in the group until we split into teams. We split into 4 teams. And basically the 4 teams would just play each other back and forth throughout the 2-week period. And at the end of the 2 weeks, we would have a tournament to see who is the champion. And I got put on a team with this guy who was just an amazing basketball player. I mean, he wasn't even that tall, but I think he was Hispanic or something, and he just like weaved through everyone. He had the best ball handling I've ever seen. He was literally unstoppable. I mean, he would basically, as we called it, take it up on the whole team, aka drive through the entire enemy team. And well, in basketball you probably don't call it enemy team, but he would drive it through the opponent's team and basically lay it up every time, and no one could stop him. And he had a pretty killer 3-point shot as well. So while I was happy to be put on such an amazing person's team, I was also a bit nervous. I mean, I felt like I wasn't going to score any points with this guy on the court, and I also felt pressured to at least somehow be comparable to his basketball skill. And early on in the season, the first couple days, we didn't play any games, and I really didn't prove myself out there, to be honest. I had probably average ball handling. I was not very good in pressure situations. Like whenever the enemy team would run a full court press or something, I would basically turn the ball over, or I'd just make really shitty passes when there's a guy in my face. And that turned out to be a weakness of mine that I discovered, but slowly I improved on it. And while I was semi-stinking it up, this other kid started rising on my team. He became the solid second player. He was relatively tall compared to the other kids, so he became our postman. And me and the other 3 kids on the team were like, alright, these 2 guys are basically going to run the show. We'll just go on for the ride. But I think on Thursday of the camp, after the first week, we were ready to play our first game. And when it comes game time, baby, 2 Bucks is ready. I was basically very eager to prove myself as at least semi-competent and not just riding on the backpacks of these guys. And I did have 2 relatively good abilities. For one thing, I was a pretty ballin' 3-point shooter. I have a basketball net in my driveway, and basically every day during the summer I would just go out there and shoot long-range shots, which is why I sucked at everything else like passing and ball handling, because if I'm just shooting shots by myself, I don't get to practice that. But I did have a nice touch on the wrist there, which, also comes in handy in other situations, like squeezing balls. Stress balls, that is, because I had a lot of homework back then. So basically, I was getting on the court, and I was ready to try to prove my 3-point shot abilities. And early on in the game, I already forgot what these kids' names are. Let's just call the one kid who's really good Steve Nash, and the kind of large kid Shaq. Early on in the game, I got a couple passes from Steve Nash, and I dribbled outside of the 3-point line, and I let those things fly. And guess what? Did not make any of them. Steve Nash kind of got annoyed at me, so he stopped passing me the ball for a while. And I was like, man, I got to really prove to Steve Nash that I can actually contribute to this team. Which brings me to my second ability, which surprisingly is hops. Now, you might be thinking, what the hell? Asians don't have hops. For some reason, I did. I was actually the school long jump champion when I was in 5th grade. That was the only athletic event that I ever won anything in, by the way. And it's not like I can squat 300 pounds or anything. I, for some reason, just can jump semi-high. I guess I have black man legs or something of that nature. And I also could run at a fairly decent pace. So I used my 2 abilities to my best advantage. I started going hard for them rebounds, and I got up several times, snatching rebounds over people and bringing it back to Steve Nash. And after every time the opponent scored on us, I would just take off down the court and we'd get some easy points just by Steve Nash passing the ball to me when the opponents weren't paying attention. So basically I was able to find my niche on the team. And actually, one of the other teams in the four-team group was quite good. There was one kid who was very large and wide, and also surprisingly fast, who basically just dominated everybody else physically, while, like on our team, Steve Nash would be very agile and dodge around people. This kid was just the complete opposite of that. I really should have called that kid Shaq instead of the kid on my team. We'll just call him Dirk. And Dirk had some pretty good players on his team. So basically the two best teams in the camp was Steve Nash, Shaq, and me versus Dirk and his team. And basically after 2 weeks of play, the championship came down to us and them. We both got past the semifinal rounds with ease, and we met each other in the championships. There was actually quite a nice crowd watching us because all the kids' parents came to see what was going on. And of course, all the losing teams were also in the stands, and we really wanted to win this thing in front of this enormous crowd of people. And by the way, each team had a coach who was a basketball player at the college, and our coach was some semi-tall white dude who was a pretty cool guy. He thought the game would be easy and that we would just dominate the other team, so we really didn't do much before the game. And they really surprised us. Their coach must have been a pretty smart guy because they made some key adjustments that took advantage of the weaknesses of our team. For example, every time Steve Nash got the ball, they would just double cover him. And he was our main scorer. He would score like half our team's points basically all the time. And after every time they scored, they would send a kid down the court immediately to cover me because I was usually the one scoring those easy breakaway points. And they paired up Dirk on Shaq, who was a pretty good matchup. So basically on defense, they had us on lockdown. And on offense, they attacked us with Dirk. I mean, that kid could shoot, even though he was huge. But luckily, having Steve Nash on our team, we were able to, stay in the game. But overall, I was doing quite shittily. I was trying to create too many opportunities for myself, and I was trying to drain those threes like I had been trying to do the whole camp. And honestly, I wasn't doing that well. I airballed twice, but I did hit one three-pointer in the first half of the game. And long story short, our team was down by, I think, 5 points with about 2 minutes to go. And their team had just scored, and Steve Nash was like, fuck this. He just drove the ball down the court by himself, took up the entire enemy team, and scored. And all of a sudden, we were only down by 3. And either team scored for a while, and I think we were down to about 30 seconds when our team got the ball back. Steve Nash drove it down the court. They started double covering him, which left me a bit open. He passed the ball to me. There was a kid coming up to me to defend me. I dribbled around him to the outside until I was at the top of the arc, and I jumped. And I can remember this moment like it was yesterday. In fact, I can almost see it in slow motion. Basically, I was almost at the top of the arc, the three-point arc, that is. I was still going towards my right and dribbling, and when I jumped, I was drifting a bit to my right in midair, and I let the ball go. The kid jumped, obviously, as well, and tried to swat at it, but he didn't quite get it. And since I was so off balance, the shot wasn't very good, and I almost completely lost my balance when I did hit the ground after I released the ball. But when I looked up, the ball hit the backboard and went in. That's right. I just drained a 3, man. And our team was just completely exhilarated. And even Steve Nash was a bit impressed. And one little kid in the crowd yelled, "Money in the bank!" except in a slightly higher voice. And after that, we were able to play some stout defense once again, prevented the other team from scoring. And with the last 15 seconds to go, Steve Nash got the ball all the way down the court to Shaq, who was pretty wide open, scored a layup, and we won the game. And truly, I think that was the highlight of my athletic career. To be quite honest, the rest of my athletic career does not look very good. My other good accomplishment, I guess, is coming in 15th place at a cross-country meet where there were like 19 kids. I still have the 15th place ribbon in my room. And I also have won a couple chess tournaments, but I don't think those really count. And quite a few times I've gotten the last kill in a Halo game when the score was like 49-49. And I think I might have even gotten the final kill cam a couple times in Modern Warfare 2 when it was 99-100. But I don't think any of those quite matched the time when I tied up the game in the college summer basketball camp.